What's up, Savvy Expats? Today I have a special treat for you all because we are touching on a demographic that we really don't have on this channel. So, Jeff, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Jeff Lee, and I am a psychological consultant living here in the Philippines, BGC, as a digital nomad.
So that's what really interested me about you, Jeff. Like, this is a very small demographic on our channel. Although the Philippines is a popular digital nomad destination, we don't have many digital nomads that watch this channel, let alone being the age range that you're in. So very interesting. Let's start with the question: where are you from?
I'm originally from Orange County,
Orange
California.
County. And can you just give a little background of what it was like being raised there in California as a Asian American?
Yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of time there. It's actually, I grew in a little bit more inland, so It's not as many Asians, but where I grew up, I really liked it. It was like the suburbs.
Right.
It was the suburbs, maybe about an hour inland from Los Angeles, if you're not familiar. And yeah, I really liked it there. Population, like mostly Caucasian, Hispanic. Well, Black and Asian, it was pretty diverse, right?
Okay.
But mostly Caucasian and Hispanic, those were the two majority. But it was fun. I had a lot of friends, learned a lot, very green, beautiful. It was affordable at that time. So yeah, I would say it was great living and growing up there.
Amazing. And so you said you're a psychology therapist and also a digital nomad. Can you dig into a little bit more about your work, how that started, and what prompted you to eventually take that work outside of your original state of California?
Yeah, so the reason I kind of hiccup in the beginning is because by trade, I'm an associate clinical therapist. So in California, that's where I'm registered. And, as a therapist, that's a lot of what I did. And it was around 2020 through COVID and all those type of things that I got sent to work remote. And that's when I was able to just kind of decide like, hey, why am I sitting here working with clients on the computer?
Right.
It felt a little bit depressing because the stuff that I was working with my clients on, it was kind of heavy. So working in my studio at the time, like my bed is close by, I kind of have like a one room open layout. It felt too heavy. So I just thought, why don't I just travel? Is that even possible? And I thought about it. I was like, yeah, I'm meeting with clients over the internet. So anywhere there's internet, theoretically, I can do it anywhere.
Yeah.
So I looked at different places. I looked at Colombia, I looked at Philippines, I looked at Europe, and yeah, Philippines is a part of where I ended up, and that's where I am now.
Oh, that's amazing. Honestly, look, Jeff, I can say that a lot of expats I meet, from their perspective, you're living the dream right now. To be able to live and work location independent online, that's what a lot of them are looking for. So that's amazing. And speaking of, I really want to dig deeper into like where you started this journey and how it eventually led to the Philippines. So you mentioned to me earlier that the Philippines wasn't the first place you traveled to.
Yeah.
Where was that?
Yeah, so the first place I went to as a digital nomad was Colombia in South America, because as a single guy, here was a really great destination. But not just that, I was looking for many things. Cost of living, which is the same criteria of why I chose the Philippines. Cost of living, relatively safe, and aesthetically pleasing, and there's like things to do, right? And for me, it's very important that it's green. I need green, like I need lush. That's super important to me. So one of those destinations that fit my criteria was Colombia, for me, Medellin, Colombia. It's changed a lot now. I don't really like how a lot of what it's become. I still like it a lot, but I think it's changed a lot. But the new type of digital nomads in there, I'm not very fond of. They kind of just want to go there specifically for the women, versus many other things that Colombia and Medellin has to offer, which I think is kind of a shame, and it's really made it something not very enjoyable for me anymore.
Right.
So then I chose the Philippines for those criterias. Cost of living, super green. I continue my business, and there's like stuff that's going on, and it's relatively safe. Where we are in BGC, it's super safe.
Right.
I was surprised. I thought it was kind of like not Los Angeles anymore. I thought it was like the nicer parts of like New York, right?
For sure.
In here, there's like no homeless people, people who are struggling. It's justifiable, and I feel like I really want to help them a lot more. Versus in America, I feel like there's definitely a drug issue, there's an attitude issue, there's a cultural issue, But here, I feel like if people are struggling, it's justifiable, and I really want to help them. Right? It's like it's harsh here, right?
Okay.
But in the nice areas, for the most part, it's like, yeah, I feel super safe,
Yeah.
even safer than in the States sometimes.
Honestly, I didn't think we were going to enter into deep water so early on in the conversation, but I'm going to take it there.
Okay.
So you talked about the homelessness in the U.S.
Yeah.
And now you've gotten to compare that to the Philippines. I mean, what are the differences that you living in California, one of the most, should I say, progressive states? They've experienced a lot these past couple of years, and it's changed a lot. What are the differences you've seen between living in California versus living in BGC?
Well, so I want to be more specific about that because my experience is reflective of Southern California, like Orange County specifically, and Inland Empire,
Okay.
right? And Los Angeles, because that's kind of where I venture. And that's kind of my own philosophy as well. So what I saw in my area, I just see a lot of things that didn't go well. I don't know the exact origin and source of it, but what I do know and what I do see is just really weak policies and boundaries that allow people to just kind of act however they want to act, even in the sake of like compassion, which I don't buy. Right? It's as if you were in a relationship and it doesn't serve you or it eventually becomes abusive, you don't become more compassionate and enable them to misbehave even more, right? You need to be firm. You need to set strong boundaries and be like, no, this is not going to stand. And so that's a big difference that I see happening. I just saw like my county in Southern California just becoming more and more degenerate, homeless people, drug addicts mostly. I used to work in like drug addiction field as well. And I just saw a system that just did, working as an social clinical therapist in the background, trying to help people who are addicted as well. Many times the substance is so powerful that they don't even want to help themselves.
Yeah.
So even if we throw a lot of resources and even people and human resources, it just doesn't change because ultimately the addiction's really strong, and a lot of that goes back to with like parenting.
Right.
I think we talk about a lot of things about houses and drugs and society, but no one's going to care about you as much as your parents. And if we're failing to have even good parents take care of you, like how is the government going to take care of you?
Right.
Or some program or like compassion from someone on social media who gave you a like, right? they don't know you. They don't care about you,
exactly.
So I think the whole thing is flipped backwards. We're trying to find like love and care through society. But if the fundamental pieces that make society is weak, then society is going to be weak, but it has a facade of being caring and like virtual signaling, right? So if we just want to look like we're caring, or even if they're genuinely trying, it's going to fall very short if even the nuclear family or even the people that's supposed to be closest to you don't really take care of you. That's how I see a lot of these people fall into drugs, but also like just weak public policy. Like theft under $1,000. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is, and that's something that my family and my friends talk about a lot. Even in Chicago, it's similar to California in the regard that they have weak policies, and it often favors the person that's at fault or should be at fault.
Yeah.
And it's very sad to see where society has gone in modern USA. I think that's why we see so many Americans that are leaving the U.S. because they're sick and tired of it. And I was curious, was that one of the reasons you'd say you left the U.S., or was it more coming from a standpoint of you just don't want to stay in those four corners of your house?
No, it was a combination of things. I think if anything, maybe the room. I'd imagine as almost like a very beautiful symbolic representation of how I felt within the society too. I felt, I would, say that I'm like middle, if we're talking about politics, like middle, slight right. And I'm actually just like super liberal when it comes to social, but also what comes with it is like, I believe if you can live however you want, I should be allowed to judge you, just like you're allowed to judge me. And we don't have to agree, but also if you make bad decisions, then you need to live with those consequences.
Yeah.
And a lot of what I was experiencing, which is why I felt really trapped, was like no one was voicing it. Everyone was like tone deaf to compassion. In the same way that you don't make cake with everything like sugar, you need flour, right? You need milk, you need cream and stuff like that, right? You don't make things better with just pure on compassion, right? It's more than one ingredient for that. So I just felt like a lot of people were just tone deaf and calling everything racist, calling everything injustice, calling everything you just need more resources, more affordable, whatever. It's like, dude, that's not the only approach. You know, you can't make a cake with just sugar. Compassion, right?
Yeah.
I think that's just political spin. So I don't claim to know the origin of it, but the reason I left, yes, I felt like culturally I just didn't belong. When I say these things, like they look at me as if I was being cruel or really uncompassionate. And as someone who dedicated my life, like spending a lot of money, a lot of time to becoming a therapist, that's quite offensive to me at the core.
I can see that, yeah.
You know, but you know, I felt like I couldn't really make the change because there was so much that was people changing around me that I just didn't feel like I fit in. So I felt like on top of not feeling like I connect socially and with people and culturally, there's the finances and also like my job, but also like, why not? So yeah, so it was a combination of things.
I see. And it's, from what it seems like, of course, the taxes in California is very high. I believe you still do have to pay those since you are still an American citizen, but also your other expenses are lower now because you're living outside of the U.S. Is that correct?
Okay, so there's different advantages. From what I understand, I think you could take advantage of that too. Like if you leave and you stay out of the United States and you don't come back within a year period, more than 30 days, right? Something like that, then you get to defer up to 120 grand.
Wow.
Yeah, up to 120 grand. So I pay, since I'm self-employed, I pay like Social Security and Medicare and all that type of stuff, and self-employment, which comes out to about 15%. Okay. So I pay about 15% tax after I pay, a lot of my business expenses.
I see. And so how is transitioning and moving outside of the U.S. or specifically to the Philippines, how has that changed your cost of living? I mean, if you're willing to be specific about those details, by all means, we'd love to hear those changes.
Yeah, I mean, it's helped a lot. It's a big difference between how much I made before and how much I made now because of just some business strategies and decisions. But the main thing is that I can say maybe more concretely, I saved a lot. Just to give an idea, my 2-bedroom, nearly 800 square foot apartment with my girlfriend and I I picked it up at 700. Eventually it'll be 800. It'll rise, right? But it's $800 for 2 bedrooms, 800 square feet, like great views in a very clean area that looks like, like a nice area of New York. And not the nicest area of New York, but like a nice area of New York.
This is in BGC.
So, yeah, BGC. Which is, if you heard, it's kind of like next to Makati, maybe like 15 minutes away. So Bonifacio Global City. So it's in BGC. So what that's allowed me to do in terms of cost of savings, like I think it just has given me more bandwidth because I'm not consistently stressed financially. Part of the reason I move is like so I could pull back. My monthly expenses is only like living expenses and everything without my business. I think it's spending money, insurance, cell phone, internet, utilities. Rent utilities is about $1,000, right? $1,000. Everything else have fun for maybe about another $1,000. So about 2,000.
2,000.
Yeah, just 2,000.
That's
but
amazing.
Then, the other expenses, it's like my business.
Right.
So, but yeah, I'm living off 2,000 and I feel good. I eat out a lot.
Yeah.
My girlfriend cooks sometimes at home, but we eat out maybe like 3 times a day, and I order.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I order.
That's great, and I mean that's very ideal considering that BGC is probably the most expensive city in the Philippines, or what's considered to be the most expensive city in the Philippines. And I think a lot of our viewers, they don't expect it to be that affordable compared to, like, for instance, you're living in California. I'm sure your expenses are a lot higher.
Yeah,
right?
It's definitely a lot higher. And I guess like the main thing, like it's because it's like we don't live in all the country, we don't like span out in the whole country,
Yeah.
So like for me, I thought about it, it's just like we live in a specific region very much, like 20-mile radius. So yeah, it's a lot more affordable here than it was in California. And that just helps like freeing up your mind. And so you could place your money to get help at home, to get a helper at your house, things like that, so you can buy your life back instead of constantly in the rat race. That's
Absolutely.
for me what really the money is about. It's not like luxury, it's more about buying your life and your time back to do what you want.
Right. And so you'd say that, I'm sure you could agree that once you've were able to lower those expenses, then that freed up more time for you as well, right? So that makes you to our next question. Living in the Philippines or in BGC, what has your experience been like as a digital nomad?
Just like overall,
Yeah, overall.
it's been good. I have a very dedicated focus, right? So I haven't had too much time to like go out and socialize. I came here much more on like a business trip. You know, my primary focus was just to free up my time. I don't have to wash dishes. I don't have to cook. I don't have to clean. I don't have to get the groceries as much. We still eat at home, right? As much. I don't have to drive, right? I don't have to pay insurance for a car. I don't have to, I don't know what else, like clean. My girlfriend does that, or I could just hire someone for a couple $100 a month.
Yeah.
Right. So my experience has been really good because my purpose, I'm a super serious like digital nomad in terms of like business, right? I didn't come necessarily to enjoy, although I am able to enjoy a lot more. You know, I pay for private like Muay Thai classes, and so, but I consider that helps me focus on my business.
Right.
So for me, I think it's a really great experience in the realm of me allowing to fully dedicate myself to working and not having to take care of like the menial task of life that is just necessary most of the time in modern society.
Right. And I've seen that with other business owners that come to the Philippines. They have less expenses and things to tend to as compared to living in the US. There's so many different extracurricular activities, not even to mention you get away from everybody asking for your time in the US because that's where you've developed relationships, right? But here in the Philippines, it's like a fresh start to where you can actually focus and dial down on what you need to do. So it sounds like what's going on in your life, which is amazing for yourself and your business. My next question is, since you're a digital nomad, is there any pieces of advice that you'd give to an expat or a retiree that's looking to start an online income here as a means to support their lifestyle?
I mean, would it be from the lens like that they're brand new, like they've never done it before?
Yes, that's the majority of our audience, I'd say.
I mean, if they've never done it before, I would recommend actually like Alex Hermosi's course. It's like free. If you look him up at like Alex Hermosi website, free course.
Not sponsored, by the way.
Yeah, not sponsored at all. He's really great because he claims, like, I can only believe what he says online, and I've gone through it, but I think it's really legit. He claims to gross, I think, 100 million in revenue through his companies and through his investments and things like that. But if you're looking to be a digital nomad, I would recommend, if you can spare the money, if you have it, to buy a professional course or go through some type of organized professional course instead of trying to figure it out yourself. Or just like YouTube videos and like stitching things together. Because if you can get it from an organized course or an organized person that you think is super legit, it'll save you so much more time. And I think for the majority of people, spending $5K is justifiable if it saves you 6 months, a year, or even years, right? Because we think about going to college and we pay crapload in tuition, right? So for $5K, you save a lot more time, plus, you know, actually make a good income while you're retired or wanting to do an online business that brings you good income. Like even if you make 20 or 30 grand, right? But you have a lot more flexibility and you do it remotely, that could be well worth the price. So yeah, I recommend an online course, some type of online program that you like them, you trust them, and you purchase their program. That way it's organized. You save a lot more time. That's completely worth the cost.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's either you pay with your money or your time. It's better to pay with money, of course. And so you said that the first place you went to as a digital nomad was Colombia. And when it comes to like expats choosing where to leave the West for, a lot of the time it's between either someplace in Southeast Asia like the Philippines or Thailand, or it's South America. At the end of the day, what would you choose?
Well, I already told you. I've been to Colombia. I'm here in Philippines. I'm actually going back to South America for family reasons, because I think the appeal of South America is, I mean, the women are really gorgeous, but also it's closer to the United States. So if you need to fly back to take care of business, a rental, family, whatever it is, it's much more affordable and it's much more timely versus in the Philippines, it's literally on the other side of the world, right? So I think that's a really big con. But I think a really big pro of the Philippines is if you like the women here, you like the culture, and you like a lot of the other cities. I mean, the other countries that's around here because you're close proximity to very prominent other countries, not just Asian countries, but countries like Japan, China, right, Korea, and Bali, right? So those are very appealing countries to me because I hear their culture. Their culture is very appealing. They're interesting, technologically advanced. So I think they're very appealing in their own right. Versus South America, I'm not as familiar with them, but I had to do more research. But I just find them more appealing for me for travel. And I'm actually going to be moving back to South America. I'm not going to say exactly where though, because I don't want a bunch of nomads to find this secret place that I found is like super amazing. So if you find it, congrats. But yeah, I'm going to be moving back in maybe about 9 months or so.
Awesome. And so I'm assuming that your experience, and we haven't told the viewers yet, how long have you been in the Philippines for so far?
I've been here for about a year.
You've been here for a year now. And then how long were you in Colombia for?
Colombia, I was only there for maybe like 4 months or so.
4 months. Okay. So you're certainly not going back to Colombia.
Not at this point, no.
Okay, you said you're keeping it a secret, but if I can just take a quick wild guess. Are you going to Patagonia?
I don't know, man. Maybe.
Okay, he really can't give it. It's a gem, guys. It's a gem of a place. So.
Maybe. It's got a nice name. Maybe I'll go there.
Okay, so in terms of comparing the two places, how is the cost of living in South America compared to the Philippines?
Yeah, well, maybe I could speak specifically about Colombia because that's where I went.
In Colombia.
But also it's like very big South America. So Colombia and Philippines. Who is it for? If you are a single man, I would say Colombia, unless you prefer Filipino women, if that's a part of why you want to move.
Yeah.
Cost of living, I would say it's about the same. I would actually say that maybe Colombia would be better for you because in Colombia you have two big cities, Bogota and Medellin. Oh, you also have Cali. So I think you just have a little bit more option in terms of what's modernized and developed. In the Philippines, there's a couple of regions that's developed, but it's not as developed as I saw in Colombia. So I think that's a big appeal.
Right.
But what's nice about Philippines is that you get a lot more beaches, right? A lot more beaches, really beautiful landscapes and things like that. But I think in terms of development, Colombia is definitely ahead with multiple of the cities that I mentioned. And also in terms of cost of living, I'd say, I mean, it just depends where you live. But if you're talking about the modern areas where a lot of tourists are at, I'd say it's about the same. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
About the same.
Yeah. Of course, and like you said, it depends on where you live. Like if you're living in BGC, of course, the cost of living will be on par with the touristy area in Colombia, right? But if you're living in the province, you can easily live off of $1,500 as a single.
Yeah.
So that's definitely possible. Now, my next question: you have an Asian background, but you're from the U.S. You told me you're Chinese, Vietnamese, correct? Coming here to the Philippines, what has your experience been like dealing and interacting with the locals?
I think for me, it's been a little bit different so my girlfriend tells me, my girlfriend is Filipina, and my experience has been they are very like hesitant and like shy interacting with me or kind of like timid. But my girlfriend says it's because I'm Asian, and so they assume I'm Filipino. They don't know I'm Vietnamese American. And so they feel kind of like standoffish because the way my assistant and my girlfriend explains to me, I think they think I'm arrogant because I'm Filipino and I'm only speaking English. Like I'm above them and I don't speak Tagalog with them, but I don't know any because I'm not, Filipino, right? So I think they have a avoidance towards me and they're timid, but they also don't like me because they think I'm arrogant. And so I just try to be friendly and smile and like slow down my speech so they understand. But I think, yes, for the most part, they seem kind of timid and I think they're kind of upset at me. So it hasn't been the most positive. But the few times, that have spoken English, it's been quite good. Like, I think they're friendly. They have that perception because I'm Asian, but I only speak English and Vietnamese.
Because if you were a Caucasian foreigner, obviously they'd understand. They'd understand.
Yeah.
And I can say I've experienced the same thing here. One of the reasons I was quite frustrated when I first moved here is because I'm obviously Filipino, but I'm not just gonna tell them before I start a conversation. Look, I was born and raised in the States. That's why I can't speak the language, and why I can't totally relate to the culture. So when I do go out to speak to an average local, they thought I was the same way as well. They thought I was arrogant, or what in Tagalog, mayabang, meaning I'm cocky.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he thinks he's too high to speak our language or his language.
Right.
It's not even that I don't know how to speak the language. And I've actually had one specific occasion where I was ordering food, and this lady was so incredibly rude. She imitated my accent, but in a British way. So, she did it in British because she wanted to mock me.
Yeah.
I said, at least do it in American.
Yeah.
At least
you should be like Talia.
Yeah, like that. So that's what some of you Phil Ams may experience. But if you're a Caucasian foreigner, like the majority of the audience watching, like they'll understand.
Yeah, man. Like, I guess that's a point of frustration, and I think this was like something you wanted to ask, like a point of frustration, because it's like Filipinos, they really like white Americans. Like,
there's a big fascination around them here.
Yeah, like so much, to the point that I feel it's kind of distorted. It's like, oh, he's like Thor. Oh, he's like Superman. It's like, you know. So if you're just white, you just are 4 points more attractive. You know, so you're a 4, you're now an 8. If you're a 0, you're now a 4, almost average. You know. You
should have seen, like we talked about a guest we've had on the channel who you guys seen. His name is Julio. Mm-hmm. He's a skinny, tall 15-year-old he's actually from Venezuela.
Okay.
But he's tall and white, so they think like he's white.
Sure.
And so we went to the FIBA game recently, Lithuania versus the US. And you should have seen everybody, like all the local Filipinos were running to him because they thought that he was a Lithuanian basketball player.
Yeah.
And so like anywhere we go, he gets all the looks, all the ladies.
Sure. Yeah.
And it just goes to show, like, and maybe this is a plus for a lot of you guys watching, you'll get a lot of great attention here as a white foreigner.
Yeah.
And I think that's why a lot of white foreigners come here, because they get treated very well here. Mm-hmm. In the US, it's easy to get treated like a nobody, but when you come here, you're treated like a celebrity.
Yeah, I think that's very much true. Fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know, whichever way it is, because it's like a part of it's like they may not like see you for actually you know, if they see that, it's like, oh, you know, I mean, it's nice getting all that attention, especially if you're not used to it. It's almost like being a micro celebrity. Yep, I think. For sure. And I imagine it because I actually get a lot of attention from gay guys. So
I do too.
Yeah, it's not the attention that I want, but it happens, you know. But after a while, I kind of just don't see it anymore, you know, because it's like I already know. So when I walk to get groceries, I just look forward. It's like, yeah. It's blurred, censored.
Okay.